Well, the massive flooding ravaging states across Nigeria is a major cause for concern for both the government and citizens. Houses are getting buried underwater and farmlands are becoming riverine. Billions of naira have been lost in value and many have been left homeless. Now, nature must take its course as rainfalls continue with intensity. On the Square today, we'll be analyzing solutions on how to prevent future occurrences. Welcome, I'm Sulaiman.
And I'm Kemini Amanor.
Well, in many Nigerian states, including the country's biggest economy, Lagos, water is fast becoming the enemy. Now, the rain season has come with heavy floods, and in the face of poor or a total lack of environmental systems to prevent such calamities, Nigerians have become victims. Now, this flood has led to food insecurity, with farmers expecting great yields now suffering heavy financial and material losses. While the people are culpable for their inadequate preparedness, the government is even more responsible for the losses, as their lack of adequate drainage systems and other preventable measures have led to multiple losses. Hundreds of lives have been lost, more than 1 million people displaced, over 100,000 hectares of farmland destroyed, more than 80,000 homes completely damaged, and more than 2,000 persons injured. Now, the losses recorded so far are enormous and disturbing. What is the way forward, and what is our government doing about it? And how are the people's representatives also reaching out to speak and also see what they can do for the people? Princess Stella Adaezeh Oduah, who's the Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Appropriations in Nigeria, joins me live. Good to see you, and thanks for your time as always. And I know that this is one too many for a lot of Nigerians to take. First, let's start by asking if your community is also experiencing what many parts of the country are going through at the moment.
I thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm happy to be here. It's not my community, it's my communities. All my communities, with the exception of two, maybe three, all have been submerged, unfortunately. In fact, my home has become an IDP camp as it is. It's really sad, because this is the magnitude of what we have now is far much worse than what we had 2012, and very unexpected and very fast in its approach. So most people were caught unawares, and it's really, really devastating, horribly so. So yes, it's not just one community, there's several of them within my constituency. It's a very sad thing to witness.
Well, I think sad and heartbreaking, no doubt, because now you're talking about communities. We've also seen footages of communities where even burial ground, talking about cemeteries in Bayelsa in southern Nigeria, have been submerged. And just earlier today in Lagos State was a heavy downpour to the extent that people were apprehensive. Let us in on what exactly, perhaps, have you been able to find out with your team or perhaps any member of the Senate on the cause of this sudden flooding that is ravaging communities across the country?
Sadly, too, again, no one knows exactly what is the real cause of this particular flood. But it's all speculation until the team is able to come up concretely with what really happened. But my My anger and concern is that when this happened 2012, the administration then set up a very robust panel, and their mandate was to find out the cause of it, to ensure that we don't have reoccurrence of such, at least not in that magnitude. And they did a very elaborate study, the panel I'm referring to. But as we speak, nothing was done with that study. And part of their findings was the fact that we need to have several dams around to serve as holding dams, and that we need to also ensure that we release in bits, because when dry season comes, amongst the riverine communities, you get extreme weather where the land becomes very, very dry, and farmers find it difficult. So the water would have been released at that point in time where it will serve a purpose. And so the report of that panel was not utilized, still has not been utilized. And so you wonder, why would that happen? Remembering what we went through 2012, the magnitude of loss we encountered 2012, and added to what we have today, it appears we never learned our lessons. And for us riverine communities, it's something that may occur next year as well if nothing is done for between now and next year. And so for us, it's something that must be in the front burner, where government will definitely need to do something. And there are several things government needs to do if you read the panel report, including environmental sanitation, where drainages have been blocked, where houses were built, and rechannelization needs to take place for where, either through government projects or individual projects, you just have waterways blocked. And water must find a way, water must find a level to pass through. So when water is blocked from where they should ordinarily pass through, they will find another means and way of passing. And so I'm not saying in particular that all efforts should be on government. It's collective effort, but for the immediate, government must do several things. One is we must go back to that report. Or if government like, they can set up another team panel to review what the previous panel has already done, so they don't reinvent the wheel, and because we don't have time. And the next one is training. Those that live within the riverine communities must be trained on how to change their ways of life, how to live with the fact that flood is inevitable. It must come every year. And so how we build our houses, how we cultivate, and how we preserve our produce. And don't forget, the food basket of this nation is along the river, the riverine communities. Therefore, government must make it a priority on how to prevent the reoccurrence of how to stop the reoccurrence of these flood menace.
Let me jump in here. Sorry if you don't mind. Apologies. Let me jump in here because now listening and also seeing those footages on television tells a really dire situation that these people are in. And now the government doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. There is a task done by a committee in the past that we should revisit, as you said. But again, for now, these people paint for us a picture of how badly affected these communities are.
They're in a very bad shape, all of them. I mean, it's so bad that several communities, people live inside their boats. That is the only dry area they can access. Some will live in IDP camp until such a time they can go home. And so children cannot go to school until such a time that the schools are dried up. So it's monumental, the losses we encounter, and we continue to encounter that. And let me tell you another peculiar thing that happens. By the time the flood recedes, you will find out that the farmland most often will no longer be there. The ones that will be there would have been sandified. Now, what that means is that you will have them not as the planting sand, but as just sharp sand. And so they are no longer fertile, and farmers will not be able to utilize the lands there. Then you have erosion. Erosion would have so depleted those farmlands. So the losses are just not losing the houses or not being able for within a short time to have access to one's home, or losing one's property. Is losing one's life. One's life. Communities disappears often when the flood goes away. And so government must take it very serious.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy. Again, I'm happy for one. We're still on this. We're talking about this, and it's not every day you get to see a politician on the continent taking a break off campaigns to look inwards and, so to speak, address some situation, which is one of the key things we've seen you and a few doing. What are you saying? What would you be saying to some of your other colleagues? Yes, the elections are here, but shouldn't everyone have a break in between campaigns to reach out, as we've seen you do?
I don't even want to appeal to them, because it's the right thing to do. You just have to pause and make sure that even those you're campaigning to are still alive, that they have source of livelihood, they are breathing. Because for zones like mine, and for most part of Nigeria as we speak today, I think we all have the same issue. So going out to campaign to a man who has nowhere to put his head, what are you going to say to the person? Vote for me. For what? You won't even have the conscience to do that. So it's a sensible thing to do, to pause and make sure that we provide them what they require, where they will stay. The medical health is so horrible. You see children dying. So we must make sure that medical outreach is provided to them wherever they are. We must make sure that we discuss with them how to return them back to their places, and how and when. We must talk about these schools that are no longer there, because a lot of schools have fallen. They've just disappeared. So you have lives that is a shadow of what it used to be before. If we don't have a rethink and a replan on how to reaccommodate this group of people, I don't know how we're going to live with ourselves. It's going to be a very, very horrible way to have to live with ourselves.
You know, talking about emergency situations, which is what the situation is at the moment. Perhaps let's start talking about the immediate needs of these people. You spoke about, you know, place to rest, you know, their weary heads. But again, and you also spoke about Medicaid. How dire is the situation? Because we've seen the clinics and dispensaries and clinics and hospitals also being affected. What are those immediate, you know, things that people, well-meaning Nigerians and Africans, can do to help the situation at the moment?
Well, thank you for that. I started by moving a motion requesting that government should have special intervention fund to address this magnitude menace. And I'm praying that government will listen to that because states cannot handle this. The magnitude is huge. The representatives can just do this, the little they can. But government intervention is urgently required, and that must be done very, very quickly. The other one is for the medical care, because the hospitals, the primary health care centers have all been submerged. So we need to actually take it to the various communities and do them on board the boats or wherever we can find space. But we must provide that. Otherwise, another another health crisis will come in when the water recedes. So we need to combat them with multiple approach. We need to make sure that we provide them food, the water they will drink. We have to take these things to them wherever they are. Those that cannot come to IDP camps, we have to take them to their communities. Like I was telling you, I have more than 20 communities. When you go there, people are sleeping inside their boats. They don't want to go to IDP camps. Some the IDP camps are filled up, and so no space for them, and they will have to sleep. You can imagine a baby sleeping on a boat. It is dangerous, it is unhygienic, it's heartbreaking.
Well, no doubt this is one issue, even as a journalist, that breaks you when you talk about it. We've seen pictures and the pictures and never-ending pictures and situations of what people are going through in the country. And you've also painted a picture. Nigeria has made immense progress in the areas of agriculture in the last 3 years. But such natural disasters of national concern, no doubt, have pegged the country back. What lessons can Nigeria and other parts of the continent take from this natural disaster?
That definitely there will be a new normal when it comes to how we cultivate, how we preserve, and how we're able to live our lives as farmers. We cannot take for granted that farming season is what it used to be. And so retraining, real skill, new skill acquisition on all this has to be what local government, state government, and I believe all the 3 tiers of government will have to prioritize. And that will take us back to human capital development again. For instance, in riverine areas, you no longer can cultivate on a level ground. It has to be elevated. And when you harvest, it also has to be stored in a much elevated form. And so our ways of life has changed. We have a new normal we all have to adapt to. And that will take a whole lot of training and resources for us to get there. But it's needful, very, very needful for us to do that.
Well, I know before we wind down, I know you're very big on human capital development, training, and so many other things, especially for people who live in the communities or hinterlands of Nigeria. Paint a picture for us, because now that the elections are here, I wouldn't let you go without asking. And people say we should make the election issues based. Going back to human capital development, what do you expect to see politicians and elected officers do for communities in that direction?
I will be happy if politicians will adopt human capital development as fundamental enabler that will enable us transform our people from people who have zero stake to people who are major stakeholders, and how just simply by making sure that they acquire requisite skills. With requisite skill, you have transformed their lives, you have given them opportunity to be global citizens, and you have given them an opportunity to have an alternative source of livelihood. Indeed, you have given them life. And so if you take the scenario where you have aging population in Europe and is a productive and a producing nation all over the world, sorry, they are producing and productive nations globally. And they are looking for younger people to ensure the continuity and sustainability of what they have built. So we become the supplier because we have the population, we have that demography. By human capital development, we can have resources ready to fill that gap that exists. Secondly, is that we spend so much money in making sure that oil and gas is developed. The same quantum, the same magnitude of funding that we put in researching, in exploration, in drilling should be plowed back, just even if not all, but a portion of that should be put into human capital development to enable our young demography to acquire requisite skill, to make sure that they have the wherewithal to fit into the global nation, and to give them opportunity to be global citizens. But most importantly, to give them a skill to survive. We owe it to them, we owe it to ourselves. In fact, we cannot even grow our economy if we not prioritize our human capital development. It is that fundamental.
I'd like to thank you for your time, and thank you for all you're doing for your community and communities and the people. And we're hoping that when we're having you back again, specifically to look at the 2023 election, we'll be talking more specifically about your plans for your people and what your people are saying to you. But for now, we're doing this for the people, ensuring that every politician like yourself and the government inclusive look inwards and see how best they can help the people and salvage the already very dire situation. Princess Stella Adaezeh Oduah, who's the Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Appropriations in Nigeria Senate, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
So when we come back, we'll be looking at what's happening in the UK, as for the first time in the history, we're having what people call a person of color as Prime Minister. That's when we come back. Stay with us.